Alrighty, Cherub. So our second emperor that we're going to talk about is Nero. Now, Nero comes through is the last emperor of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, of the first dynasty of Rome. And what he's going to be doing is, oh gosh, Nero. Nero is the worst. He is a narcissist. He is paranoid. He is delusional. He's the worst. And so he does a lot of things that are just terrible. He murders his own mother. He just is the worst. So what we're going to do, I want you to watch this clip about give you some context about what Nero, some of the things that Nero's doing. Now, the thing that he's doing that concerns us for the history of art is that Rome catches fire. Now, most of the city was still made out of wood. Rome catches fire, and a good chunk of downtown burns down. It's said later that Nero watched the blaze, and as it burned, he played his lyre, he played his musical instrument, his little harp, and recited a poem about sang this song about the fall of Troy. And when the blaze was finally quelled, he had that giant section of downtown bulldozed, and he built himself a giant palace. So this was public land in the middle of the city, and he claimed it for himself. And it's called the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. And you can see it was quite lavish. It was enormous. To give you a size context, here's the city of Taylorsville. And this is the school. This is where we're at. This is where we're sitting. This over here, let me grab the pointer. The park, this is the park where we have Taylorsville Days. All right. If you've been to Taylorsville Days, you know it's a good size, it's a decent sized park. Essentially, the Domus Aurea was this entire block from 5400 South to 4700 South, from 2700 West to 3200 West. That was the Domus Aurea. So it was like the park and this whole chunk of Taylorsville caught fire, burned down, and the mayor of Taylorsville comes in and takes that whole chunk of the city to build a house for themselves. And the reaction of the Romans to this would be about the same as the mayor of Taylorsville doing that shenanigans. Like, what, you can't do that. But of course he's the emperor, so of course he can. This is going to cause a lot of problems for Nero. This is going to be a PR nightmare. The Domus Aurea is spectacular already. Now, what he does as part of this, now this shows the level of his narcissism. What he does is he has a statue built of Apollo with his face, and it's called the Colossus. It's bronze statue. For comparable down here, look and see its comparison to the size of the Statue of Liberty. This is a large, large statue. So he has this statue built and installed within the Domus Aurea. And the people of Rome just shake their heads in dismay. Like, really, you can't be serious that this is going on. Nero doesn't last for much longer. He's finally forced to abdicate. And by abdicate, I mean watch the video clip and you'll see what happens. In the intermediate well, Nero has no children. Nero has no heir, and so there's a scuffle for the throne, and this ends his dynasty. So there's some battles back and forth as to who's going to take over. Guy who comes out on top is Vespasian. He's a general, and he comes out on top as the last man standing. What his first thing to do as emperor is to tear down the Domus Aurea and give the city back its land and give the Romans back their land. He's a Flavian. That's his family name. So the dynasty is the Flavians that he founds, the second dynasty in Roman history. And what he does is he knocks down the Domus Aurea and he builds this in its place, in part of the land, just part, gives the land back to the Roman people. The Coliseum. Now, they would have called it the Flavian Amphitheater because the Flavians built it. Vespasian built it. He leaves the statue, because it's Apollo, the colossal statue of Apollo. He leaves it because it is Apollo. It happens to have Nero's face. Okay, gross. But it's Apollo, so we're going to leave it. Tears down the house around it. Builds the Coliseum next to it. Next to this giant statue, the Colossus. So the Coliseum is really, it's named that. We call it that because it's the temple of the Colossus, this colossal statue of Apollo. All right. So really, it's the Flavian Amphitheater, or the Temple of the Colossus. Now, the Colosseum, again, was built for games, not just gladiatorial games, but executions and chariot races, a whole variety of events. The Flavian Amphitheater is a work of engineering genius. I can't begin to express how grand this structure is. The fact that it's built out of concrete because they're able to make artificial stone and then faced with marble. Now they're going to use the arch to lessen the weight of the building so they can build it taller. Remember, the arch is allowing the Romans to go bigger, to go taller. It's got, you can see these engaged columns along the bottom. Okay, they're a Tuscan order, or Doric. All right. As we move up, we've got Ionic, and up at the top, we've got Corinthian. So again, we've got the Romans not caring about the orders. They're just like, ooh, that's pretty, and throw them all together. You can see how it's missing a section. Well, what happened was, again, after empires crumble, later peoples are going to see standing huge structures from the past and say, oh, free stone to build other things. So a big chunk of it was removed so they could use it in other building projects later, after the empire has fallen. Okay. The Coliseum it's designed just like a modern stadium where we've got different portals that you enter. You've got a ticket. You go in and it's dictated, where your seat is by your number. So you go to portal, 2, 3, etc. To go in and find your seat. It has running water. It has public bathrooms. It has the works. These little bumps here up at the top, what these are, here, let me go to the next slide. What these little bumps here are up at the top, they hold timber works. They hold timbers that extend up, and those timbers support, that's called the velarium. And it is a screen, a retractable screen that's in sections so they can adjust the sunlight coming in and the airflow coming in. So they can cool you off, they can warm you up, so the sun's not in your eyes. They were geniuses. And down below, on the ground floor, they had it so they could pipe in water so they could flood the arena area, the stage area, so that they could have naval battles. And then down below, that's called the hypogeum. They've got this section where they would house the animals and the gladiators and the performers, etc. But then they also had trap doors where animals and such and gladiators could pop up out of the ground. So you had people fighting over here, and then behind them, a bear comes out and attacks from behind. They were geniuses. They were masters of their craft. Okay, so you can see that the Coliseum today has no floor. It was a wooden floor that would have been covered in sand, which has since decayed and is gone. Okay. Now, it needs to be noted that the Flavian Amphitheater was built, again, there is no free lunch. There is no building for buildings just because you're the emperor and you can say that. Okay, everything has a price. And so the Flavian Amphitheater comes from the sacking of the Jewish temple. All right, the Jewish temple was a rich building in the heart of Jerusalem, and it housed many treasures because people would pay, Jews across the empire would pay money annually for the upkeep of the temple. And so they amassed a lot of money within their precincts. Vespasian helped. The Jews were notoriously fighting the Romans, like trying to win back their independence. And finally, Vespasian comes in and is like, nope, we're done with this. And he destroys Jerusalem. Okay. And carts off all the wealth of the temple, demolishes the temple completely. And with that money that he amasses from stealing from the Jews, he builds the Flavian Amphitheater. So the Jewish temple no longer exists today because we have this. All right. This was built on the back of this. And the Jews were carted off to Rome as slaves to build the Flavian Amphitheater. All right. So his son, Vespasian's son, commemorates the victory over the Jews in this triumphal arch. And there you can see the menorah that they're carting away from the temple. Okay. Now, the last thing to note about the Flavian Amphitheater, this was part of a program that was called Bread and Circus. The Romans, the city of Rome itself had notoriously high unemployment rates. Okay. Rather than kind of deal with that problem and give people work, what they decided to do, it was easier to provide bread and circus. So what they would do is they would give to the citizens of Rome free bread, so they're not hungry, because hungry people revolt, and people with too much time on their hands also revolt and get up to no good, vandalism, etc. So to quell both of this dual problem, the emperors had a long-standing program of giving free food to the citizens of Rome, as well as providing them entertainment, giving them Netflix, essentially, to keep them busy, to give them something to do. And part of that entertainment system was the Flavian Amphitheater, was the Coliseum, where they could come, and it was regular. You had a schedule throughout the day. At certain times, you had certain events, and you could always come. It was always open, and they would be performing public executions. There would be chariot races. There would be gladiators, and the gladiators would be like the top billing. That's the prime time entertainment. All right. Now, the program is called Bread and Circus, like I said, but in Latin, that sentiment is expressed panem et circenses. Okay? Panem et circenses. Now, if you've read The Hunger Games, you can see where I'm going with this. If you've read The Hunger Games, the Hunger Games in the novel and in the movie, in the film, they provide the same function. They entertain while simultaneously horrify, quell any opposition among the client states of the empire. And the empire's name is Panem. And the author does this very intentionally, where she's drawing on the knowledge of the Roman program of bread and circus, where she names her empire in her book Panem, and she does that very intentionally, calling back to Rome. So if we look back, the Coliseum is a marvel in the fact that they're going to take a Greek stadium. Now, the Greek stadiums are only semicircles. They're only half a circle, right? They're going to take it, and it's always built into a hillside to hold it up. They carve out this hillside to hold up the stands. What the Romans do is they take that stadium and they mash it with another stadium. They bring it together to make this full round. And it's not a circle. It's actually an oval building, but then they make it completely freestanding. So they're geniuses of their craft. All right. So this is the Flavian Amphitheater of Vespasian, and again, built on the remains of what was the Domus Aurea of Nero.